We are going to open up our next meeting, our next session, which is, I'm waiting for Yossi to put up the next session, the next screen. It is our session on Let's Disconnect. And this is specifically about suggestions on activities for times away from the electronics. We've been talking a lot over the last couple evenings about how our children are so connected to their screens, to their electronic devices. And we've been hearing so much about frustration about how we don't always want them to be connected. So we've asked a panel to talk about some real life tachlit activities that you could be doing with your children, activities that the children can be doing when we want them to be away from their devices, their electronics. So we are going to be joined now by Shira Wiesenberg, who is a trained social worker. She works for Yachad as a chapter supervisor in the Midwest. She supervises a number of our chapters out in the Midwest. We're really thrilled to have her. She's joining us from Chicago this evening. So thank you for joining us, Shira. We are also being joined by Sarah Ireland Cooperman, who is our coordinator from Cleveland. She has been with us for a very long time, really from junior high school, but she's been the coordinator since 2007. She's also the director of activities and recreation for the Singleton Healthcare Center, which is a senior living facility in Cleveland. And lastly, by Yakira Begun, from Toronto. She's the Assistant Director of Informal Education at Yachad. She's been involved with Yachad since high school in Toronto. She joined the Yachad Toronto staff, and she really has a passion with working with our individuals and individuals in general of all ages. This panel is going to be moderated by Rebecca Schrag-Mayer, who has been working for Yachad for close to 9 years. She is the director of New York Yachad and Informal Education, and we're really thrilled to have them. So we're just waiting for our technical person to put them up on our screen. As soon as he does that, we will start the second session. So please bear with us just for another minute. I believe they're on. Okay, so I'm going to
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Batya, for the introduction. Just to start with a great meme that I saw a few minutes before tuning in. Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. So tonight we are here to discuss stepping away from technology and creative activities and time away from our electronics. I'm so thrilled to moderate this panel with some of the most creative colleagues of mine who really have so much to add and do and share. We invite you to any questions as they come up to write them in the Q&A box below. And any creative suggestions you have, please also share with us in that way that everyone can see the questions. So I'm going to ask Sarah to jump in with introducing herself and share which age demographic she is representing tonight.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Rebecca. Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Sarah Cooperman. I actually have 3 perspectives on leisure time. Personally, one is I have little boys, a mom of 2 little boys at home, and this current climate has really shaped how I look at their downtime and realize how obsessed they are with their tablets and how scary that is. My Yachad job, as Batya mentioned, as program coordinator, has been going on in Cleveland for the last 13 years. mostly adult demographic, and that's really pushed me creatively to find, our weekly events, something that everybody enjoys, no matter, all different abilities. And then really, I think tonight I'm going to speak to the adult and senior demographic more. Baja mentioned I have another job in a living facility, a nursing home with adults and seniors, and we utilize very little Zoom. I mean, there's very little technology going on. This is daily. I'm there every day, sort of organizing and facilitating activities and programs and events all day for them, with them, for them, depending on ability. And we use very little technology, as you can imagine why. It's just not in their comfort zone. So I'm happy to bring that perspective to all this evening.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Yakira and I work for the Yachad Informal Education Department. A big thank you to Batya and to Yachad for having me on this really fun panel. In my job with informal education, I am so lucky to be able to work with a lot of different teens, young adults, and I'm hoping to be able to share some hopefully creative tips or tricks, ways to engage people sort of in that age bracket. I think to me, when we talk or think about disconnecting from social media, from technology, we usually use it kind of towards being able to connect to the people or other people who are around us. And so I hope to sort of focus on ways that young adults or teenagers can better connect to themselves, can better connect to their family members, can better connect to their siblings, to their friends, and also to their communities at large.
My name is Shira Wiesenberg. Like Batya said, I serve as a chapter supervisor for Yachad. My previous professional roles have spanned a wide range of ages and needs in different settings, including schools, camps, and group homes. So I bring a lot of different perspectives to tonight. I was officially assigned the youngest age group, which speaks mostly to my home life. I'm the mother of 3 kids under the age of 4. So I'll be speaking a lot about, examples from home as well. The other qualification that I bring to tonight is that this is really my second time ever using Zoom, and I still use a flip phone. So this is very much a topic that's close to my heart.
Thank you, panelists. So what does time away from electronics mean to you? You can go backwards this time, starting with Shira.
Okay. It really starts with a conversation about values and goals. What do you want for your kids, for your home? We're not going to be successful at reducing screen time if we're asking ourselves, how am I going to manage today? How am I going to get through this day? We need to ask ourselves, what do we want to accomplish? What are the components of a strong day for our kids? What would that look like? Do we want life skills, creative play, exercise, religious activities, time outdoors, social interaction? What are the different pieces that make a strong day and that make a healthy day? And then you figure out from there how you're going to meet your goals. And it might be that technology is going to be the best way to meet those goals. Yakira was talking specifically about socialization, and it's very hard to socialize outside of Zoom or FaceTime, or whatever these days. So it might be that the best way to achieve your goal is through technology, in which case that's a great, it's amazing that it's available to us. But probably the best way to exercise is not going to be on the computer. So it's really, thinking about what are your goals, what do you want the day to look like, what do you want, the totality of the week to look like, and then how are we going to make that happen?
Definitely. I really agree. I think to me, when I think about time away from technology now and everything that's going on, and in today's day and age, it's definitely different than how I would have thought about time away from technology, say 6 months ago. At our jobs at Yachad, whereas a few months ago, my job was all about sort of interacting with different people and constantly meeting people at their schools or running training programs in person. Now, our jobs are much more online. And so for me, at least on a personal level, time away from technology really means filling my breaks or filling my time after work, after a work day that is fully online, after a school day that's pretty much fully online, with other types of opportunities or things to do that are offline. And something that I found most helpful for me is to sort of have ongoing projects. And so if I know that I'm in the middle of a painting that I started the night before that I really like to do, even though before quarantine I didn't like to paint, but now all of a sudden I do, or I want to learn a new instrument, or I'm trying to cook something new, if I know that I kind of have that project waiting for me, then I find it to be really good motivation. So by the time I'm done with work and I had my Zoom calls and I answer emails and I sort of phone and my computer and was really connected online, I'm now sort of itching and eager to get back to that project, which is offline. And so I think kind of filling those holes or those gaps with things that are offline with ongoing projects serves as kind of a really good motivation to, instead of spending my 15-minute break scrolling through social media, now I'm sort of ready or wanting to take that 15-minute break doing some type of project that's offline. And hopefully we'll be able to sort of dive into what some of those projects could be for different people a little bit later on in the conversation. But I found that committing myself to a project is a really good way, because by the time I'm finished that project, I'm ready to start another one. And it's kind of helped structure the way I see time online and the way that I'm able to use time offline.
I think that with Zoom, I think that technology in general just isn't trustworthy. I think that, the computer breaks, the audio is not working, and I think it's a frustrating experience for some people, and I think the dependency on it is an issue. I think people have a problem with the fact that it's so easy though to just turn on the tablet and turn on a movie and have them, your kids be quiet for, it really is so easy. It's such a temptation, it's such a useful crutch sometimes. I think that's a struggle, but I think the dependency on it, and I think the mindlessness of it, like I know that Rebecca, I'm sorry, Akira mentioned, like there's purposeful ways to engage with technology, and it's not mindless. I had a whole list, someone had sent me a whole list of virtual tours they're doing of museums and things that you can do. So I don't know if people would take such issue with that, but I think it's mindlessness of just not using your brain at all and just sort of vegging out for so long, again in small doses or whatever you need. But the amount of time people can get lost in technology, like Akira said, taking a break is key. And then I think again it's just not trustworthy. I think my seniors don't see the value. But Shira mentioned socialization in this climate has to happen this way. Like the irony is not lost on me and all of us that we're zooming about zooming. We're zooming about how not to zoom or whatever. But I think in this climate, it's a necessary evil. Use that dramatic term. But like in my facility, a family member who wants to see their resident, we have to zoom. They want to see them. They have to zoom. I facilitate it because I'm the one that has the the skills, I guess, to facilitate it. But a computer, I had a Yachad member try to get on one of our Zooms. Her audio wasn't working and she couldn't join, and then that was it. And she couldn't be a part of it. And it just felt like, I think that's what goes to a lot of, I had a lot, and I think a lot of everybody here joining us, that it's a dependency on it, and then you can't trust, and it can't be a sole dependency on the screen.
Thank you. Can any of our panelists can jump in with this one? Can you share a success story from our past few weeks at home or months, something that you've seen really work away from technology?
I know that
I'll jump in. Oh, okay. So Sarah, you want to do it?
No, go ahead, Shira.
Okay. So to go back to what I was saying a few minutes ago, success comes down to defining your goals and meeting those goals. So if we're talking about a success story, again, that's going to be, have you met the goals that you set? So for my own family, one of my top goals for my kids is to become doers and givers, to think about others, to give to others, and to be productive people who do meaningful things in their lives. So I'm always trying to inculcate these values at home. My kids are very young. They're 1, 3, and 4. So we're talking about a very basic level of these goals. But one of the tricks that I use is when I give my kids a treat, instead of giving something to each of them, I give all the treats to one of my children and put that child in charge of giving them out to everybody else. And they actually have to first give their siblings, and then they can take their own piece. It's just one small way that we train our kids to think about others and to become giving people. So one day I gave a very little cookie to my 4-year-old daughter, and I was just blown away by what she did. She took a small bite of her cookie and went upstairs to where my 17-month-old was sleeping. And she put the rest of the cookie in the baby's crib so that she could have a special surprise waiting for her when she woke up. And I will tell you, the baby was very excited when she woke up, but my 4-year-old could have lit up the entire room. It was so much more meaningful to her than eating the cookie herself. And for me, there's just no greater success. You don't get that from Zoom. You get that from again, we talk about social skills, and yes, in many ways, this is the only way to socialize right now. But in terms of actually developing social skills, what I will argue, and this is perhaps better suited for a different question, so I'm not going to elaborate too much. But what I would argue is that social skills really are developed away from the computer. So just one cute example from our home.
I think that I was just listening in on the previous session. Dr. Lifton was talking about how his Lag BaOmer experience was different in this pandemic climate, and how typically when the school would have an event in this school and all the kids they were together in the backyard, and it was really homey and really nice. And I think that not a specific success story, but an overall positive vibe that I'm hearing a lot is just the reconnecting with the family, the reconnecting with the family unit, the reconnecting with friends in a way that you're with, or if you're in a residence and you have fellow roommates and things, you're just able to connect. You don't have the distractions, I think, as much. Again, you can distract yourself all day with virtual events, right? But if you take a step back and engage, I think that's positive. I think that even when I'm thinking about my long-term care job, when you record activities for a day with my residents, you can do things like art, right? Things you think of hobbies, art, and you check it off, and they like art. Trivia, they like trivia. But there's two on there that always struck me as interesting. One is conversation, check, and reminiscing. That's like a very popular term, like at least in senior care, reminiscing. And it's like we forget that activities, right? Like we're the cruise directors of our children's lives. Like we need to have like the best, funnest activity, and we're like, yes, ma'am, whatever you say, we're planning your day. And what's reminiscing? That's not an activity. That's not fun. That's not exciting, right? And we get all these forwards from our friends and WhatsApp about all the fun things they've done. And I just think reminiscing. I remember reminiscing is an activity. Reminiscing means the resident is sharing with you about their life, and they're remembering what it was when they were younger in the good old days, and you're talking back in conversation. That's an activity. Kids won't fall for that now, and they'll say, that's not an activity. That's not fun. But I've seen a lot more, for lack of a better word, reminiscing and conversation and one-to-one engaging that you're kind of forced to do. You're in and you're reconnecting, whether it's family, like she was saying, or whether it's in your jobs, and it's forcing people to just reconnect on a deeper level, a basic human connection level, which we couldn't have ever done without necessitating that. So that's been nice. I've been hearing a lot of stories like that.
Definitely. I think, thank God, I can think of so many success stories that have sort of come out of these times and in so many different ways. One that I think really stands out to me, and this sort of goes back to that forming or having our teenagers kind of form those connections within themselves and reconnect to themselves and who they really are and who they really want to be moving forward. Once we've kind of had a little bit of time to sort of slow down and decompress and stay at home, is actually something that we practice on Yachad, which is Yachad Israel Summer Program. We've implemented something called an attitude of gratitude in our summer. And what I found, and I think it's relevant to this conversation because I've had participants from this past summer send me messages saying how they've really been able to implement this within their own home, is we'll ask participants throughout their day to sort of keep an eye out for something that somebody else did for them that they're extra grateful for that day, something that really stood out to them. And what we found is by the end of the days, on Yad B'Yad, on this Israel summer program, people had so many little things. Some were big, some were small, but kind of they were all things that if we didn't sort of give that prompt of keep your eye out for something that you're grateful for, something nice that somebody did for you, we might not necessarily pick up on the fact that somebody just did something for me that I really appreciate. And I've had a couple of participants who are teenagers, participants in high school, who have kind of said that they've been able to incorporate that into their homes, and it's really kind of changed the culture, because now all of a sudden gratitude fuels gratitude, and you're doing something nice for someone else and they're giving you a shout out and they're thanking you for it, and then they find themselves wanting to do another nice thing, or you find yourself wanting to do another nice thing, and it can kind of really create a really nice environment. And I think it got me thinking how this is a really nice time to sort of be able to develop habits within our homes that can really stick and that can really be long lasting. And I think the piece that allows us to connect back to ourselves is really documenting these things or reflecting on these things in kind of an inner way. There's a lot of different sort of reflection guides that I've seen online that people have made, which sort of help you track how you feel, or something that you're grateful for, or something new that you did that day. And if anybody's interested who's listening to this in looking at something like this or in implementing something like this into your home, I think I could see it working for teenagers. I could see it working for people who are younger, for people who are older. You're welcome to send me an email after, and I'd be happy to send you one of those guides. But I think it's a really nice success story in sort of seeing what we're able to do when we kind of, remind each other what it means to be kind and grateful and empathetic within our own homes.
It's incredible to hear about all of these successes, big and small, but definitely many, to change moods and to change the mood for a moment. Now that we've heard about the successes, can you tell us about some times that there was a flop where things didn't go as planned?
So I have this
I'll
friend.
jump in.
Go ahead, Shira.
We need a better system for this. But, so not necessarily a flop per se, but again, I'll just share one story that there's a family in Chicago that used to have 15 hours a week of cleaning help. Okay, and now they have 0. And the parents are struggling to do their jobs, parent their kids, do Zoom school, and the house is like crazy. So they set aside Fridays. Fridays are going to be for cleaning. And the husband and wife are going to, they do the cleaning, and whatever they can get done before the baby wakes up from his nap, that's it for the week. So the only way that they're able to make that happen is with all of the other kids on screens. And again, if you go back to values and goals, they don't value having their kids, do video games and, and watch TV. But they do value having a clean house, and they do value having some semblance of sanity. And it's the only way to get it done. So a lot of people are not managing right now, whether it's group homes that are really functioning with very limited staff, let alone all of the reduced programming, or whether it's people at home, obviously, 2 working parents, kids who maybe have 2 hours of schoolwork a day to keep them busy. So if you're not able to do, I think from the last session, Michelle Steinhardt had closed out the program talking about parents putting on their oxygen masks first, and I think about that analogy very frequently. That we cannot help others until we are okay. And everybody needs to do what works for them. If technology is going to help you cope, help maintain a calm and happy atmosphere in the home, keep a situation safe and tolerable, then you got to do what you got to do. We have to triage, and we have to be honest with ourselves about what we can handle.
I was just going to say that I have a friend who's really me, who had a flop personally. In my household was just, and it's interesting because someone in the Q&A mentioned, this is a doctor from Boca Raton, and mentions painting, which is I love to do. And I had set up sort of a paint night for my 8-year-old, And, you know, when I spoke to him, yeah, let's do it. That sounds great. Bought the supplies, got all ready, bought the paint, bought the canvas, ordered it all online, was all prepared. And then he just didn't like it. And he was bored after 2 minutes. And so I think it was a flop for me in the sense that I hadn't properly assessed his level of interest. So, you know, in my, it's just, you know, a little tip. I mean, in my profession, at the facility, there's an official audit, and you come in, hi, Mr. Jones, nice to meet you. What do you like to do? And then how can we make that work for you? So obviously we're not, you know, auditing our kids in the same way, and we know them, you know, in a personal level, but that's probably where I dropped the ball, and just in really assessing, is he really interested? I made the investment. And I think some, you know, we push our own agendas. Like, I love art. I just assumed he would too, you know, and then my husband's a sports fan. Let's go and play ball. I don't want to, you know, so we kind of want, it's not, you know, if we're facilitating someone else's interest, that we have to keep in mind, I think, is sometimes is a learning lesson there for us is, you know, I would like to do this in my spare time, but the person you're facilitating it for may not. So it's not to say, you know, not to try new things. My residents will tell me, I don't like this. I've never done it in my whole life. I don't want to do it. I make them try, and they often love it. But I just think the accurate assessment of, is this something that's really going to be a hobby for you, something of interest, has to take a deeper level, I think, with the people that we're helping find their hobbies.
So something I'm wondering, I wonder if anyone else is as well, is does balance exist? Are there non-traditional ways to use devices? Meaning, are there healthy or more healthy or more structured ways of using technology beyond watching videos and playing video game after video game?
I could start this one off. I definitely think balance exists. And like what I was saying before, balance, at least for me, or probably maybe for a lot of people, looks really different now than it did 6 months ago, and sort of your ratios might be a little bit different in terms of time connected to your devices versus time not connected to your devices. But I think something that I try to remind myself, or to remind sort of other people, is that not everything that we're doing on our phones is Facebook or Instagram or WhatsApp. A lot of that can be done on our computers or online are really meaningful activities. It can be, I know on a personal level, I'm extremely grateful for all of the Torah that you can learn online now. You can kind of zoom in to real classes in real time that you wouldn't have had access to otherwise. And there's so many different good resources for that for people of all different ages. And also you can learn instruments online. You could learn how to cook literally anything online. We learned the other day how to make masks out of socks online. And so ultimately, I think sometimes what we find is that in order to get ourselves that next project, oh, I want to try that, that looks really cool, a lot of sort of that creative thinking of fun and interesting things to do can actually be found online. I saw a really interesting article, a news article a few days ago, of a family that had made thank you cards, and they drew them and put them up all over the front of their house. And they also left like a little gift for their mailman, and they put it by their front door. And so it's a great activity because it actually takes time offline to assemble the gift or to make the cards. And then it's an idea that you saw online. So sort of taking things and using Google and using the web as a really good resource guide to then be able to apply things to your everyday life. And they interviewed the mailman of that house, of the family who did left the small gift and wrote the thank you card. And he sort of spoke about how it was a beautiful way to be able to connect to your community. And so if we think about, you know, finding ways to connect to our communities, that could be a really great way. Or there's lots of different articles of fun ways that friends could sort of connect by going on a walk with distance in between them, or, you know, sitting in the trunks of their cars. And so I think that online or Google or the web has really come up with some really smart ideas of things that we can actually implement within our own homes and put technology away while we do it, but use technology to help us find those initial kind of ideas or those initial sparks.
exactly what I was going to say, Akira. Just that I mentioned this before also, just I think, you know, if it's just mindless and it's just scrolling and there's nothing to it, and if it's replacing you as the, you know, it's just replacing other activities, or it's acting as the full time, I think that would be the issue. The balance, I think, is again using technology to aid you. Like we're using technology now to, you know, portray this information. I use the internet quite a bit to prepare for my residents' activities who don't use the internet. You know, just we're doing trivia. Where do you think I find that trivia, right? So it's not this, you know, technology is evil necessarily moment, but it's more, you know, using it, like Yakira said, to help you facilitate a non-technological based activity. But for research and things of that nature, I think it could be bound well that way.
Can I add one point, which was going to be my main point, but then I got carried away with the mailman because I thought that was so cool and I want to do it in my house. I think another a really big thing is sort of taking advantage of the things that exist that might not always exist online. So, for example, all of the Yachad on demand programming, which is really going full force and will allow you to feel as if you're sitting in front of a magic show, you're just watching it through your computer. So a lot of it is kind of how it's pitched or how it's portrayed. That person who's watching that magic show or who's doing a mad science or a STEM sort of activity, it's not the same as playing a video game by themselves, because they're seeing different people on their screens, or they're learning something that they wouldn't have learned otherwise, kind of mimicking what that would have felt like in the classroom. And so sort of differentiating between the types of experiences that we're having online. Some of them will be in group formats where you see many different people on your screen. Some of them might be one-on-one, just FaceTiming with a friend is in today's world equivalent maybe to sort of hanging out with that friend or grabbing coffee with that friend or going for lunch with that friend. And so sort of just tracking the types of interactions that we're having online and really utilizing the things that are around, all the virtual museum tours and things that really Google can sort of help you find, and then just recognizing and realizing that those types of activities are not the same as spending 2 hours just scrolling through your phone sort of aimlessly or doing nothing on it.
Great. What are some challenges surrounding stepping away from technology, and how can we better structure this time for success? Shira.
Okay. I think the biggest problem is that people are just really overwhelmed. People are juggling a ton. And we need to acknowledge that. It's I don't want to minimize that in any way. We need to realize that people are totally over the top. There are other challenges too. You know, Sarah talked about how you plan this amazing thing, and then you know, maybe your kid will humor you for a couple of minutes, and then they're back to climbing the walls. So I'd like to suggest something to address, you know, both of those different issues. And my suggestion would be that we really need to step away from what I would call the silver platter mentality. Okay, which is we're presenting, you know, our you know, like Sarah said, you know, our cruise ship programming to our kids on a silver platter. We're working so hard to cater to our kids, and it's amazing. That everything that we're doing is amazing. But it runs the risk of making our kids feel entitled and teaching them to expect to be amused and programmed all day long. You know, one of my kids developed this COVID mantra of, what's the next activity, Ima? You know, like, what's up next? So, you know, we're running school, camp, and full service hotel and restaurant all in one. We need to really go back to that doers and givers thing. Mom should not be setting up 4 different art projects for each of the kids and then also trying to make dinner. We have to figure out a way to make dinner with our kids, to set the table with our kids, to clean the house with our kids. We've been talking a lot about creative programming, and creative programming is amazing, but in my mind, nothing beats household chores and real life responsibilities. To be honest, kids enjoy being treated like adults. So, if you feel guilty that you're, using your kids in child labor, kids really do appreciate being treated in a responsible, mature way. And at the end of the day, we feel good about doing good. So give your kids a mop and let them go to town. Have them polish the silver, have them pull the weeds in your yard. They can make somebody his coffee every morning. However you do it, however you set up, whether kids take their own responsibilities, whether they have their own set jobs that they do every day, whether there's a job chart, get everybody involved in what needs to happen in the house anyway, so that you're not running full-time programming and trying to manage your household. I'm not going to promise that your kids are going to get the floor sparkling clean, but it does teach your kids to think about others, and it just helps pull everybody onto the same page, so that you can, be a little bit more, so things can be a little bit more manageable at home.
I like that. You're also never going to run out of ideas, because there's always more things to clean. There's always there to be made.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
And I will add, I agree. I think that I think burnout is what we're seeing. I think creative burnout, which I've had in all three of my roles. I think creative burnout is real. I think that's something that that we've tried. I think in most areas of our kids' lives, we always encourage them to be as independent as possible, right? By the age of whatever, they're dressing themselves, brushing their own teeth, right? But I think when we're talking about leisure, hobbies, activities, it's kind of got to be the same. I think, as a Yachad program coordinator, it's like your goal is always, it's hard to get out of that mindset, because it's like, let's plan more and let's do more and it'll be the best. But at some point, the Shabbatons end, and at some point the Zoom goes off, and at some point you're alone with yourself. I think that's just part of the human experience. And I think I talked about this with Shira. It's the teaching a man to fish, giving him a fish, theory, where, what's my next activity, is that it's sort of that mantra is saying, give me a fish, instead of teaching a man to fish, which would be, like I mentioned, working with your child, working with your member, working with your resident. What do you like to do? It's a threefold thing: identifying what it is that you like, identifying what supplies you need to keep that. Okay, so he told you he likes doing crossword puzzles. Okay, what do we need? We need a crossword puzzle book, one, right, to last a long time. And then you need to be able to do them, to complete them, to be a self-starter in that moment. So when he says to you, I'm bored, you say, well, where's that crossword puzzle book we bought you, right? So on some level, I mean, everybody's different abilities and capabilities in this area, but on some level, taking ownership, I think, of your leisure, right? It's just at some point in your life, people are alone and on their own, and can't rely on, everybody 100% of the time to do their activities for them. So I think that's going to help. It's twofold. One, you're giving them a skill that they can use for their life, right? At some point, somebody needs to know how to fill their time, entertain themselves, and do their hobbies. That's a big part of life. And then you're not going to be so burnt out. Every minute doesn't have to be planned by you. You could say, well, we bought you that crossword puzzle book, get on it, find it, get on it. So you are helping, you're facilitating, but the hope is that they can be a self-starter in that a little bit and be independent, and you taught them to fish, and they can now provide for themselves, to the degree that they're able. I think that could help. Sure.
I think maybe I'll just add one thing that Shira reminded me of when she was talking. I definitely cannot speak from a parent's perspective, but I imagine something like this could be fun for teenagers, or really for anybody. Sometimes if we're talking about structuring, it can be productive or helpful to structure some type of creative activity around an actual set thing. So for example, instead of just one of the parents making dinner a few minutes before it's time for dinner, have something like a chopped competition where you have the entire family working from whenever they finish school or whenever people finish work for the day towards making dinner, because that way it kind of helps structure a certain piece of the day, you kind of know that your night activity or your night portion of the day will be taken up by the process of assembling your teams and then cooking and then eating and then judging and then cleaning up. And then you sort of have kind of this full, complete picture of what that night could look like. And I imagine that it could maybe help sort of a lot of different people in the family. Takes sort of some of the stress off from cooking because you're doing something fun all together. And it also lets people sort of add their own creative flares to whatever it is that you're eating or doing that night. So just something about structuring around sort of big parts of the day.
Just to mention something based on what Sarah was saying about really, teaching people to own their own leisure and their own choices. I think that it's so important, and so glad that Sarah mentioned it. Just one idea that, kind of a take-home idea. I think, we're talking a lot sort of more theoretically. So just one take-home idea. We used to have on our fridge, this was for my stepchildren who are older. My own children cannot read. But on the fridge, we had this long list of all kinds of things to do when you're bored. The title of it was, things to do when you're bored. And there was this whole long list. And at the bottom of the list, the second to last thing was come up with your own idea. And the last thing was stay bored. Because ultimately we wanted to express that idea that your boredom is really your responsibility. So again, I wouldn't say that about my 1-year-old, but about teens and adults, to say that, boredom is a choice, and we're here to facilitate, we're here to help, we're here to come up with ideas. We can make a list together, but there does need to be some ownership on the part of the recipient, so to speak, or it's just not going to work. We're going to be entertaining them all day long.
Thank you. We're hearing some real gems here. Thank you. So the past question really focused on a little bit more of the structure going on in the home or in the residence. What are some ways to encourage socialization? It's so important to all people, but it's something within our organization we're spending lots of time promoting the social opportunities. What are some ways to encourage the socialization, while socially distancing, and it's not conflicting?
I think socialization is definitely something so important and something that can't kind of be left out of the equation. Just because we've sort of been forced to turn inwards in terms of staying in our house, it doesn't mean that our need to socialize or to interact with other people sort of goes out the window or isn't important anymore. And if we sort of definitely within the family is super important. And if we also sort of take it one step further and focus on maintaining friendships and keeping up those types of social interactions and those types of social conversations, I think it's definitely something really important and worthwhile to sort of make sure that we're reminding ourselves and also other people that we're around to do. I think definitely when if it's safe to do so wherever you are, then meeting a friend outside and going for a walk, spending time sitting on your front steps or in your backyard in a safe distance, but just kind of having that face-to-face interaction now that hopefully sort of there will be a little bit more room to do that. It's definitely something worthwhile and something to sort of push ourselves and other people to do. And then there's also other ways where even if we can't come face to face with something, we can show people that we're thinking about them or show how much we care for our friends or our grandparents that maybe we can't see, or our other family members who aren't living in our own homes, by doing sort of acts of kindness for them. Maybe that's baking something in your own house and then safely walking it over or driving it over to deliver it. And even if you don't actually get to see the person, they still feel like you thought of them, or they still know that sort of you're there for them. And maybe you could even speak from, a distance away, driveway, from the front door. But kind of just making sure that we're doing whatever we can to encourage people to continue thinking about people outside of just our own selves and outside of just the people that we see on a day-to-day basis, and kind of whatever you feel like, or having a brainstorming session of what are good ways that we can stay connected with other people. Just even that reminds us that it's important to stay connected with other people and kind of not losing sight of that goal.
I think all these are great ideas, and certainly we're seeing a lot of creativity in terms of how people are socializing. But I'm going to make a really big plug to socialize with the people in your own home. I'm going to take a little bit of an issue, Rebecca, with the question, because I think that we're working on the assumption that, well, we have to socialize with our friends, with our classmates, with our Yachad friends, with our camp friends, with whoever. And I myself got pressure as a mom, oh, it's so important. My kids should be able to see their moras every day. These moras are their moras for this year, and they will never be their moras again. It's important for them to have a relationship with Saba and Savta, but it's not important for them to have a relationship with their mora for this particular year. And it's okay if they don't see them in Zoom every day. Focus on the people in your own home. They're, whether it's a group home, whether it's a family, unbelievable things are happening right now where families are connecting in ways that they never did before. Siblings are interacting. They're really pushing themselves. Siblings that had a really hard time getting along with each other and finding some commonality, they're making it work. And I think that when we take away the crutch of technology and that crutch of, the Zoom and, connecting with everybody else in the world, and say, you only have the people that are in these four walls, you'd be amazed to see how the way that people rise to the occasion.
Great. I'm going to jump to a question that came in the Q&A. Is there a value of having a game night with your children beyond just being off screens, reconnecting with your children and having them reconnect with each other? This is a question from the audience.
I say a big resounding yes. I love that idea. So two things. One, it's not just away from screens. It's also, as she was saying, interacting with, you could do a crossword puzzle in your room with your door closed still. So you're off the screen, but you're not really interacting. This is good. And I'll add one thing to it that I've done in all my jobs is personalized game shows, or personalized board game. So it's, Monopoly board that is specific to your family. It's Jeopardy questions that are about your family. It's Chutes and Ladders that have your house on it, right? So then you're taking the time to the creative pieces that you'd always plot a board game too that's already made. I think creative wise, and also taking up the time, the kids, the people that you're working with, can make it and make it personalized is also a fun thing that we've done that's been really, really successful. So good suggestion.
Great. I'm going to blend another question just came in with a question our panelists prepared. So if somebody has tried all of these things and they haven't worked, what do they do next? And along those lines, one of the panelists is asking, how do we make, one of the participants is asking, how do we make quality time and not just being around each other time? And shifting it into meaning.
Okay, so I think first of all, COVID has created a new reality. So I think that just as a starting point, it's worth giving some old things a new chance. So if by, I've tried it before, if what that means is I tried it 3 years ago, I would say try it again. The other thing that two other things that I would really suggest. One is to rethink your marketing. For example, one of my sisters, one day she brought a bunch of mattresses down to the basement, and she planned on just letting her kids jump around. Okay, it's creative, it's fun, but it's not much to write home about. It's nice, it's good. But she told the kids that she was making the house into jump zone. And that took it to the next level. So if you call it color war, like people will do anything for color war. So think about your marketing, think about breaking some of the rules. I had, Yakira was talking about the socializing with social distancing. And it's really hard for people with younger kids or people with social disabilities to follow the rules of the social distancing when they're trying to like be out of the box a little bit. So I've been really trying to think of how to make this work for my kids who don't get it and who get too close and who are asking for people to pick them up. So we dropped off something at somebody's house today, and I put all 3 of my kids on the hood of my trunk and on the hood of my car, and my kids loved it. Like that worked for them. So sometimes breaking the rules can also shake things up. If you take washable paint and let your kids like splatter paint all over your house or all over your car, like the breaking the rules, thinking about your marketing, that can change things up a little bit. And I would also say, pull in the siblings. To go back to what we were talking about before about socializing with the people in your own home. Sometimes, an older sibling like might be too cool for an activity, but if they're doing it as like the coach or the mentor or the helper for the younger sibling, they might really rise to the occasion. So try pulling in siblings and get them involved in, okay, well, if the 3-year-old is setting the table, maybe the 8-year-olds could help it. Or if really it's the 10-year-old who needs an activity right now, but he doesn't really want to hear that he needs an activity. So to say, can you help, whatever it is that, the younger kid really wants to do Play-Doh but needs a partner, or, or whatever it is.
Definitely. What I was thinking or was going to say was very in line with what Shira was thinking in terms of marketing. I think anything can become kind of a meaningful and memorable moment if we sort of elevate it and kind of take it to that next level, whether that be, doing a little bit more decorations or having people help with the decorations or making something a little fancier than you usually would, or calling something a different name than you typically would, so that people feel like they're doing something new, even if it's something that is actually pretty normal, quote unquote. I think it's really all in the way that it's pitched, the way that it's branded, and I think that can really elevate something that's otherwise mundane and create something that becomes really special or really unique to your night or your family.
Things exactly in line with what Shira and Yakira are saying. Breaking the rules also, also very simple, easy things. It didn't take Shira any time or money to put her kids on the hood of her car, but it was exciting, it was different. But we've been like, it's picnic night and we just eat on the floor, or it's fire night and we turn on our fireplace. I don't, and then it's just something different, it's something exciting. One, I did not do this, but a friend of mine did this in terms of like breaking the rules. She said that she did cellophane on her floor and maybe like soap, and the kids ice skated for hours, right, in her living room. So like my one tip was going to be like, be stocked with supplies and make sure you have supplies, because you have an idea and then you don't have we can't all go out to the store as easily. So you want to be stocked, with supplies and not have to break the bank to do these things. And I think that's a good example of that also, like just doing things slightly and then marketing them, like Yakira was also saying, like calling it something different. Like a friend of mine, her son wanted to go to Chuck E. Cheese for his birthday. They're closed, right? So they made Chuck E. Cheese in their house, and it just kind of reminded me of like, instead of, it could be just jumping on mattresses, or it could be now we're at Jump Zone or Sky Zone, as we call it in Cleveland. Like it is all a lot of branding. In my facility, on Cinco de Mayo, we did a taco truck, but really it was my cart that I had tacos on it, and it was still fun and exciting, and it was not just Sarah Cooperman pushing around a cart with tacos. It's her taco truck, and she runs this truck, and I decorated it also. So yeah, it just remind me of all these things when you start to just rebrand and start to also, like Shira said, just would normally put down a sheet of cellophane on my ground. Doesn't cost anything, they're not going to hurt anything, and just have a picnic on the ground for no reason other than just to keep things a little exciting. You know, I think it's sort of easy. Once you get in that mindset, I think it's sort of easy. You're like, oh yeah, it doesn't cost anything. It doesn't take much time. So these are all great things.
Thank you to the participants who've been sending in questions. For the sake of time, I'm going to close with this last question to our panelists. What's something that hasn't been asked that you would really like to leave everyone with tonight?
I think I know Shira and I talked about this also. Scheduling. I think, right, Shira, talking about it kind of lives in the category of how do I look at my day and how do I, again, this burnout feeling. But if you kind of break it down with my 3 jobs, I have 3 different scheduling. So with my sons at home, it's a daily thing. What are we doing today? What's the daily schedule? With my Yachad group, it's a weekly. What are we doing this week? I look at it in a week. And then in my facility in the home, it's a 30-day month schedule. So, but each of it is its own unique thing. But I think scheduling is huge. I think Shira can speak to that as well. Just like envisioning how you want your day to look and your and one thing that I started doing with Yachad, which just helps me and how my mind works creatively, and it might not work for everybody, I think themes are really are big for me and started helping. We started doing themes for Shabbaton, for example. The theme is circus and the whole thing. It just helps structure. It means your presentations are going to be talking about circus. It means your program, right? So it just kind of gives a theme to what you're expecting for that weekend. But if you have a weekly theme or a day theme or a month theme, right? So baseball month at my center means we do, you know, Cracker Jack cooking. We make Cracker Jacks. We watch a movie, baseball movie. We do trivia about famous baseball legends, right? So it just structures the day, and it's sort of the possibilities are endless in that sense. I mean, we have Jewish holidays and we have Torah portion, so that those kind of guide how you want your week. But I would just that was one tip that I didn't have a place to put in earlier, but just to suggest, because it has worked for me creatively also. Scheduling, mapping out what you want your day to look like, your week to look like, your month to look like, and then allowing the opportunity for a theme, right? It's Abraham Lincoln Day and we're all gonna make top hats and we're all gonna, you know, that kind of thing. It just helps creatively a lot for me. That would be a tip that I wanted to leave you all with too. And then I had submitted some scavenger hunts, because I think that's a good one. A lot of people have done. I know that Yachad did one virtually, but also a scavenger hunt list for outdoors, taking a walk outside, finding items in your house. So I did submit them prior to this chat. So when you are leaving, I believe you're going to get a small survey questionnaire, and you have the opportunity to have me send you those scavenger hunt lists that are already done for you, right? So they're free, they're done, no creative. It takes time. You go on for a walk and you and your family members are checking off things you're seeing. So there's 2 different versions of scavenger hunts, which I wanted to plug because I like them a lot. Yeah, so I just wanted to mention those few things also.
I'll give just a point. Do you want to go, Shira?
No.
Okay, I'll do just a really quick point. I think definitely for everybody, these times look so different than what we're typically used to. I know I found myself thinking a lot about teenagers and sort of their experiences in middle school or in high school, and how it really is such kind of a time when you're really coming into your own and you're sort of enjoying some of the independence that you might newly be getting. And I think that can definitely be a really difficult thing to not have now. Maybe it's somebody who doesn't typically live at home and now all of a sudden they're back at home, or somebody who's usually out for majority of their day and all of a sudden now they're not. And I think kind of just remembering that whatever we can do to sort of help within reason, allow teenagers to feel like the ball is somewhat in their court and they still have some sense of control over how things are looking for them and how they're structuring their days and the types of activities that everybody's doing as a family. I think kind of getting some of that buy-in will possibly impress you or everybody in terms of the things that they're able to come up with, or the way that they feel like they want to act productively or meaningfully spend their time, but also help them sort of feel like they haven't kind of lost everything, or not everything has been kind of stripped away when they think about their life outside outside of home. So kind of the more that we can incorporate, the more opportunities that we can give them kind of within home to sort of set how maybe something is done, or even if it's as simple as what is the night activity tonight if you're doing something like that, or what are we having for lunch today, or let's make a brunch or something like that. Kind of like placing some of that control, I think, to sort of let people's creative energies come out within the home as opposed to only outside of the home, I think could be kind of a nice thing to put in place that not all teenagers might really think to do when they're more focused on the outside kind of world.
I just really cannot emphasize enough that people feel good when they do good. So help your kids do meaningful things with their time. You'll all feel better.
Wow. A big thank you to Shira, Sarah, and Yakira for these incredible tips and tricks. I know your creativity has got my creativity going, and I look forward to implementing some of your ideas in my own work and with my own family. And I can't thank you enough. And thank you to everyone for joining. I'm going to turn to Batya.
Okay, Yessie, if you could just put up their contacts, thank you. So now everybody should be seeing the contacts of these three amazing panelists. We hope you enjoyed both sessions tonight. I really thank everybody, both Rebecca for moderating the panel, the second panel tonight, and everybody who has been joining us, all the parents, for coming the last few nights. We have one more night left tomorrow night, and we hope everybody will be joining us. Please, when you sign out tonight, remember to fill out that survey that will pop up. We really value and read these surveys. We are going to be growing from it. Tomorrow night is really your night. We're going to be hearing from Avrami Adler, who is our international director. He is going to be joined by Chani Herman and Jack Gorgie. They're going to be talking about Yachad into the future. Ken Sable will be moderating that panel, really on the vision of Yachad and what it's going to look like in the near future. And into the future, what the vision is, what some of the challenges we're facing right now, and where we see Yachad growing to. After they are done at 9:15, please put on your laughter, put on your prepare to be amused. We're going to be having an amazing comedy show presented in honor of Yom Yerushalayim by Eli Lebovitz, who is an incredible comedian. And we really want to end our week of our virtual family Shabbaton with a fun activity, a really fun, amusing program. So we hope everybody will join us tomorrow night as we end our first virtual family Shabbaton. As Avrami has said, we hope it will not be have to be repeated for this reason, and that next year we will all be in Yerushalayim having our Shabbaton together once again face to face. Have a wonderful night, everybody, and we hope to see you all again tomorrow night. Good night.